Today we'll be doing the next episode of Aza World 7 Europe. We're getting close to the season 1 of the series. If you guys want season 2, definitely say in the comments in the last few episodes. If you don't, then we won't give the series a season 2. But we're basically rapidly approaching 2024. We're now 2025, but this series was created in 2024. But basically, we're rapidly approaching 2024. I think we're basically in the 80s now. And basically, now, the Cold War is now reaching the height. With the Xenia Union, the communist state, along with North Bisa, and South Bisa, which again created an alliance with many countries in the world. However, Europe, there hasn't really been much of an alliance thing. There is a W alliance. But unlike our Cold War, this Cold War is basically between the Xenia Union and Continental Union, and the Allies as well. The Continental Union finally built its first ever nuclear weapon, which it's about time they do. I forgot about them, basically, so they now have nuclear weapons. So, however, Osai, they do not like the new government of Gartana. New government of Gartana is too race socialist leaning. And before Gartana can do anything about it and try to say, hey, we're not that bad, Osai sends troops into the country. Gartana doesn't like this, and basically, Gartana is one of the oldest countries in the world. However, they are basically being invaded by Osai, and Osai pays however, Osai isn't actually that strong of a country. They may have a lot of land area, but you gotta realize most of the population lives in the southern portion of the country. Most of this land is basically like no man's land as well. It's a very underpopulated country. So Garantana starts to push back, and they even start to push back against Osai. Okay? This causes Dante to intervene to basically say, hey, Garantana, you can't invade. You can't win the war. So Dante also invades, and they finally say, hey, we can get some land out of this as well here. And they start to invade as well. Garantana is struggling now in this war. Osai says we don't need the entirety of the W Alliance to intervene in this war as well, but we do need to put a stop to the spread of socialism in Europe. Because we have the Soviet equal, and that's already enough of a headache for Osai, as they're basically the second strongest country in Europe. Or Eurasia. No, in Europe. They barely count as Europe. They're mostly Asia, but Garantana is being invaded as well. However, Finai, this country up here, starts to invade Osai from the top. They're like, what the fuck is going on here? Okay. Finai is this Finnish country, and the government basically has, they say, hey, yeah. I forgot the part of the same one. I can't really declare war on each other. Okay, figure out a different country. The second strongest country that is a part of the alliance, the WS. I forgot Finai was part of the alliance, sorry. But it is Moravia. They do not like the fact that they were humiliated by Osai. And they lost the civil war, so they start to invade Osai. Okay, this gives concern as Moravia is not a very strong country, not as strong as the strongest neighbor Garantana. But however, the Garantana start to push back to its border as well, and even towards Dante. This causes the Osai government to basically be in panic, as Moravia is basically helping them. Another country that also gets intervened is Fida, which declares war on the W Alliance, and Dante, they start to send their troops in. And this is basically now becoming the biggest war since World War II. Okay? Because Fida and Garantana are some of the closest allies in the world. Okay? As well. And they start to basically say, yeah, we haven't thick within for this country as well. We're gonna start to defeat Osai and here. And Fida is actually much more powerful than Dante, so this is actually pretty easy. This causes Brakia to get involved, and they start to invade Moravia. as well. And the SR Moravia joins the war side of Moravia. This despite them having a very different government. However, they do want to help Garantana. So see, knowing that the fact that they had the same scrutiny here, they start to invade Breakia despite the lesser population as well. And this causes a new escalation. As SR Moravia was supported by Soviet equal. Okay. And this causes a huge problem because Soviet equal is a second most powerful country in all of Europe. Okay, they are basically the number one power in Europe. OSI is not really European, but they threaten if you pull out of the battle against SR Moravia, we will invade Sisa and Darwin, which means these countries over here, Elp, Fusaka, and Nyastia, will have to get involved, and Soviet equal will have to get its allies of several nuclear powers as well, including the Senia Union and North Bisa as well, which are its two allies as well. Also, Zelny, which isn't going to really do anything, as they're mostly in North America. And also Noda, which is not part of the alliance, but they are still a socialist state that is also a nuclear power. Thing is, Osai has no nuclear power. They have, none of the alliance has nuclear powers. Okay? And they're now stuck. Okay? They can't do anything. Because Soviet equal is basically saying you can't invade us. You can't invade our ally. And if you do, if you continue this war any longer, we'll have to intervene and we might even nuke these countries. Okay? This is pretty bad because Soviet equal will basically have the four of the W team. Okay, the W team may have more power, but Soviet equal will get help from China. It will get help from, North Bisa as well. They'll get help from... And they don't want to basically start a world war. Okay? They don't want that to happen. Okay? So the W Alliance basically concedes the war. And... Basically... they basically just decide the peace deal. So Moravia, they annex some of these eastern provinces right here, getting back some of the former land from Osai. Garantana, nothing will happen to them as well, but they will gain the small little province right here. This is a mostly Garantanan, area right here. And Dante will lose a lot of its land. Dante will lose this southern portion right here. It's a more ethnically and religious diverse area, but Dante took that area. And SR Moravia, okay, SR Moravia gets to annex this entire area right here from Breakia, which Breakia is not very fond of. Okay, so that's that conflict resolved, but there's another conflict coming out in Africa. That is between several of these countries over here. So there's a conflict brewing in Central Africa again. Okay, that is the country of Silver versus Cayenne. They declare war on each other. Basically, there's the Silver government does not like Cayenne's government because the new Cayenne government is basically just killing minorities. Killing the minorities on the border with Silver because Cayenne is mostly Cayennese in the north, but however there are several more religious minorities and ethnic minorities in the southeast, south and southeast and west. Here, the southeast minorities are not really affected, but the southwest minorities, which are here, are being basically just killed. Okay, and Silver decides to invade Cayenne. to basically protect these ethnic groups as well. This causes Cayenne to respond with its own military, and the problem is Silver is not the most powerful country in the world. So Cayenne starts to actually push back against Silver as well, because this is basically like Rwanda in our timeline, and Rwanda doesn't really exist, so this is basically the example we're using as well. However, Monama, which is a nuclear power, manages to catch wind of this and starts to invade. This causes Gayone's government to panic, okay, as they are basically now fighting this large, massive country to the north as well, and they surround the capital, and Cayenne loses as well. Nothing happens to Cayenne. They escape a change of government as well. However, the minority ethnic group area will be gain its independence. So basically, this little province down here will be gain its independence, and there's not gonna be a name for it, as I can't really put a name on this country, as it's too small. But this is basically this minority group as well, the kind of what is called Southern Cayenne. And basically, there's a religious and ethnic minority in the country. And yeah, I don't want to update the religious maps as well. I don't remember the religions, but basically, there's a Middle Eastern religion, there is a East African religion, Europe has consolidated under one religion at this point. There's an Eastern European religion. There was a Binu religion over here. There's Continental religion. There's a Central Asian religion. There's a Korean, Chinese, and Japanese religion, which have been basically spread all over the world. And there's also a Central African religion, which is mostly practiced by this new country, Silver and Rena and Wyoming, which are the four countries that still practice the Central African religion as well. And also there's the religion of the Spanish countries and the Teresa and Saudi, which these countries get along quite well. Same thing with the Spanish countries, they get along quite well. There's no real beef, but however, as Garcia wants to bring back its imperial nature, they can't really take back the colonies because they're too powerful. However, there are several countries they can really take on by their own. They can't really take down the W Alliance, as they will just destroy as Garcia. As Garcia has been a relatively weak country on the world stage nowadays, okay? They used to be one of the more powerful countries in the world. However, they have lost a lot of their power status, so they're looking down towards Iberia to invade. Despite Iberia being religiously and ethnically different than Asgardians, they start to invade Davia. Davia is fully unprepared here. And the thing is, this country, there's no one really to help them here. So they start to invade Davia's, more inland areas. And this causes the country to basically no one comes to their aid, which is a very scary thing, because Asgarcia is still a very powerful country, and Davia is basically just surrounded on its border here, and Davia just gives up. There was no way they could have won this war, and the ending of the war results in full annexation of Davia, which causes this country to just cease to exist. The first time in a long time, a country just doesn't exist anymore. Now it gives Asgarcia a border with Spania as well. And yeah, that's a pretty big expansion here. And yeah, also the ways to Davia's capital. Here, and basically, as Garcia manages to basically say, hey, we are not a weak country anymore, okay? Well, they can't really do anything against the northern neighbor Fry, but they can expand southward to take out these countries here. And now let's go to Asia, which is what the series is mostly about, but we don't really do anything in Asia anymore. But however, a new country is about to gain its independence. Otia, which again is South America, is no, not Southeast Asia. The Naski and Otia have like the own unique religions down here. Nai has a separate religion, and Viate has a separate religion as well. China, Southeast Asia is very religiously diverse. Otia's colony, this country down here, wants to gain its independence. Okay, so Otia basically says, okay, we'll give you guys a vote. Okay, 77% vote yes, so the country will gain its independence. Here, and we gotta give this country a name, and it's Silla. That's the newest country in the world, and they have just gained the independence. The capital will be the largest city, which is this port city right here. And Silla is now the newest country in the world. Otia loses the colony, but the colony voted for it. However, there's going to be something happening in Australia. Nothing has really happened in Australia since this area has been colonized. Australia has been the most peaceful continent of them all, even more than North America has been. Because ever since these countries gained their independence, these countries have just kind of been chill. However, Vita basically wants to get rid of the Neocontinental, as they do not like this country and they want to destroy it. Neocontinental is not very strong. It's actually the weakest country on the Australian continent. And also this gives me an excuse to get rid of this country right here, as it really serves no purpose. And Vita and Neocontinental have very similar cultures too, as well. So Neocontinental is defeated by Vita. So Vita is now the new owner of this large landmass in Australia. And yeah, they own Western Australia basically. The Western Australia, they are actually still the weakest of the Australian states here, as they are basically the lowest in GDP per capita, the lowest in GDP, the lowest in population. Outside of this colony right here, which this colony is basically managed by Niaski as well. Niaski has kept the colonies, but this colony is becoming too expensive. So they're offering to sell it to a country. So the two highest bidders become Zhao and Vita. Okay. Zhao, because it's the number one economy in Australia, they basically win the battle for this area right here. And it's basically annexed into an integral territory, which causes Vita to be really upset and basically ramp up escalations with Zhao here. And the escalations between the Cold War continues to heighten as well, as the Xenia Union, starts a new war. Okay, the Xenia Union had several allies, including Abaddon, North Beast, and Xenia Union, obviously, and they have Soviet equal. But the tensions there have becoming pretty high with the nuclear powers, and the tensions have becoming pretty high over Ainu. Okay, as the Oni wants to basically invade this country to expand their territory and say, hey, and the problem is Ainu is Western aligned, or at least aligned with Japan and the other Chinese states as well. However, the other Chinese states want to expand their alliance as well. Okay, and this is going to cause a lot of attention. So the Orange Circle Alliance only includes two of the most powerful countries in the world. Sunni, which is a nuclear power, Continental Union, but that has nuclear power. Yeah, and the problem is these countries they have two nuclear powers, but they're looking to expand their alliance. Okay, Sunni, here. So they're looking to expand the alliance basically here, because it is basically just like India, these countries like here, and I think that's it. No other country, I think, is a part of this alliance. I don't think there's any North American country that's a part of this alliance. No South American country. Okay. But I did want to make this alliance more noteworthy. Okay. The first country leads out to is Viyate, which is basically on the border of the Xenia Union, and Rufu, which is also on the border of the Xenia Union. Rufu graciously accepts because, hey, they don't like the idea of the Xenia Union invading them, so they join as well. They also reach out to another country, which is Viyate, which they also join as well here, making the alliance even bigger. Okay, this also causes Zhao to join, as this country, of course, supports the security of Australia. And the newest, and of course, the next country that joins, not the newest country, but the next country to join is this country right here, which is Ray. They join as well. So the alliance of more democratic states have basically extended to include these newer countries as well. But basically means this alliance is now forming into basically a NATO-esque country here. Yeah, meanwhile, IO, which is a part of the Star Alliance, basically the only member in Africa, I think, because they are mostly friendly with these countries. This causes escalation even more. Okay, we talked about in the last episode about the escalation getting worse and worse, and there is now a hostage crisis. Okay, yeah. So basically, a Tarvian hostage has been taken by has been intercepted and taken by a mysterious country. The first thing Tavi does is accuse the Xenia Union, one of the largest countries in the world, and of course they say, hey, you took our ship and you took it as a hostage. Even though it's a terrorist group actually based out of Centra, okay, that took over it, but Centra is not gonna be invaded because the terrorist group has basically been operating in the southern portions of Centra as basically a rebel faction against the government as well. Basically, Centra is in kind of a civil war, but it's kind of like a serious civil war. But they do not like this. Okay, say, hey, Xenia Union, this country right here, this large, massive country here, we don't like what's going on. We don't like this hostage crisis. Okay, so for a couple of days, this causes basically like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, Sunni and Continental Union have the nukes faced towards Xenia Union and North Bisa here as well, and Noda has its nukes pointed towards Continental Union as well here. And Soviet equal, which is allies with the Chinese, also sends nukes to North Bisa to threaten this. But it is really confirmed that it was this little terrorist group, and basically all the countries agree to help Central with the terrorist problem, and the problem is solved. And that's what this video here. Goodbye.